agencies there. So I'm just going to walk through with you what exactly was said as we show you the scene here. You can look inside Terminal 1 and see
you guys
a huge media presence right in front of you. But starting off with a recap of what DC Mayor Muriel Bowser said.
So let's see what happens.
She confirmed what we have verified: a commercial flight coming from Wichita, Kansas, collided midair with a military helicopter around 9 p.m. However, not say whether it could confirm is that there are 60 passengers, 3 crew members on that American Airlines flight. And Jacqueline, as you just shared with our viewers, Fox 5 has confirmed with U.S. Figure Skating that some of their community was on the plane, including athletes and coaches. As far as the military helicopter, 3 people were on board, and we did not get an answer about what exactly that mission was. Now, she did confirm that both aircrafts are still in the water. She was also briefed by American Airlines and told that their leadership is on their way to DC, and other officials are here already in the airport speaking with families. She's extremely sorry for the families who are experiencing loss and asking for residents in the DC area to make sure they allow emergency vehicles in our nation's capital to rush to get to scenes. Obviously, she does not want anyone to get hurt amid those efforts. And now moving on to what Chief John Donnelly with DC Fire and EMS mentioned. As Bob Barnard has said, 300 first responders are working as part of the National Capital Region Agreement. So multiple agencies are involved here. Maryland State Police and the U.S. Coast Guard helicopters are helping, as well as boats and divers from across the DMV. Now, the rescue challenges include the access, the 8 feet of water, the wind, as well as pieces of ice. The conditions are rough out there. And Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy was also here. And just for background, he just got confirmed yesterday, so he's only been on the job for 24 hours now. He is sending his thoughts and prayers to individuals impacted during this difficult situation. There is a family reunification center here at Terminal 1. He said he did speak with President Donald Trump, who was in the Situation Room with his team, with the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. The department plans to offer full support to those on ground, Mayor Muriel Bowser, and NTSB, who is leading this investigation. And as you can see right now, we are walking outside Reagan National. There are some flashing blue lights that you can see in front of us. But President Jack Potter with the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority was also here. He says they are working and doing their best to provide support for all the families involved. Also to Dulles, but everyone was accommodated. Luckily, there is no impact right now at Dulles or BWI. And lastly, we heard from 2 Kansas senators, including.
What it is, because I know one of them, this is it right here. 60 people died.
Teachable gave me the ability to scale my business outside of different social platforms.
60 people
going from the boats across that area where you see all those emergency lights, and then over to the very, very far right, you can see those red tents, and those tents have been set up to receive remains. Essentially a temporary morgue here for a recovery effort that the DC medical examiner has said it will be unprecedented in the modern history of the District of Columbia, or is expected to be unprecedented in the modern history of the District of Columbia. So again, the people you see here behind me, federal, state, from Maryland and Virginia, local, all doing their jobs since this happened. They will all be here as this process goes on throughout the night, and hopefully we will be information for you in the morning about the full scope of what's going on here. Back to you.
Our Jackie Benson reporting live in Southwest. Another kind of incredible vantage point and scene there, as that is where they are bringing those bodies that have been recovered from the water this morning. Another live look at this massive scene from one of our cameras there. Just an unbelievable situation unfolding. I believe we have Mark Miller on the line right now. He is a professor at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. He teaches aviation accident investigations. Mark, I know you've joined us on air overnight before, so we thank you for staying with us here on NBC4.
Oh, no problem. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families and the first responders who are doing a fabulous job in those real tough conditions.
Yeah, Mark, for our viewers who may just be getting up and didn't get a chance to hear from you earlier, with your experience, can you just talk about, I mean, it's been now, I guess, over, heading into 7 hours now since this crash happened. What is going on there on the scene with your experience, and what is this investigation, looking like now in its 7th hour or so?
Well, unfortunately, it's not looking good for survivors, obviously, and the rescue attempt is going really strong. However, there comes a time when you draw the line and you have to say, okay, we're going to preserve the wreckage as best we can as evidence for a full forensic investigation. And that's just part of the investigation at the NTSB, United States.
And once again, everybody, 60 people passed away in the plane crash. I think it was American Airlines, a little small plane.
Fighting with
and it hit Black Hawk helicopter, so they collided, I guess, maybe after midnight tonight. So,
team, perhaps something that we haven't seen in a long time. And if there are any issues in our system right now, I guarantee you the expertise in this team will get to the bottom of it, and in a pretty quick manner. The evidence is preserved nicely in water. The fire was not able to really destroy the wreckage, which is really good, especially the flight data recorders, the flight voice recorders. Those will be preserved. I expect the divers to find them pretty quickly in the next 24 hours, I would estimate. But once again, though, there might be current in the Potomac that could make it a little more difficult than what we see right now. So we'll see what happens there. So you have to navigate that, the ice that's thawing out and everything else. But the experts that'll be involved in the salvage and recovery they'll be on top of that. The other evidence that I talked about earlier, and it's going to be really important in this, is what went on through the air traffic control communications, and not just the American Airlines flight deck, but also in the Army helicopter. And that communication also with air traffic control. Mr. Huddleston did a fabulous job explaining the perspective of what's going on, and potentially in both the flight deck of American Airlines coming in on approach. They're overly focused right there on landing that aircraft. Meanwhile, the Army helicopter is transiting below them. It can make for a really precarious situation, and a lot of near mid-airs have occurred through very similar instances in the past from that type of scenario. So the air traffic control report and that analysis will also be really key to the investigation. The other one that I didn't have the chance to talk about is the overwhelming evidence of human factors and human error involved in the Army flight deck, the American Airlines flight deck, potentially, and in the air traffic control facility. So any number of mistakes could have been made, and that will be thoroughly investigated by the NTSB and the Army and the Department of Defense.
Just such a
so there's a lot to really digest in a safety investigation. But remember, the long-term effect is important, because I believe we have the best system in the world to non-biasly investigate accidents without getting into a legal liability perspective, just from a safety perspective, to get down to the real causal factors of this type of accident and really prevent it from happening in the future, make our air transportation system even stronger than it is now. This is a real tragic event. It's a heartbreak for me, because I work with the industry all the time, and we never want to see things like this. We believe we are in an age where we're in the best transportation system from the world flying from point A to point B. And that includes helicopter flight, by the way. I'm a helicopter pilot by trade, so I'm rather biased at flying helicopters. I really think the world of them. So whatever comes of this, it will be detailed, it will be concise, and it will certainly fix whatever is broken in the future.
Mark, you said a couple minutes ago there have been lots of near misses, and I know we hear about those, every now and then, a near miss, and it's always scary. But can you remember the last time we saw something that looked like this?
Not with a helicopter, but there's issues out there with drones, but there has been close calls in that area right there, Washington, D.C. You can look through the records, and there was a near midair, I believe it might have been at National, in the air between 3 different aircraft. So these things can happen. It doesn't take a lot for them to be close calls. And, close call in what we have tonight are just a mere fraction of a second to be in a disaster. So we've had a lot of those over time, and some of them happen rather recently. They just don't make the news. They're close calls, but they're just not going to make the news all the time. Whereas these types of tragedies, unfortunately, do make the news.
Yeah. Mark Miller, we thank you for all of the information you passed along, and we thank you for being with us overnight, and we'll check back.
Look, this just really happened because I watch was it ABC Dateline? They didn't have this on here, so it had to happen after like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock midnight tonight. So my bad. Hold on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I wish you guys the best getting through this. This is a tough one.
Thank you. It was very, very helpful to have your perspective and your explanation and everything like that. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, we're going to go now to Joseph Olmo, who is live for us at Haynes Point. Again, we have reporters all over the area from different vantage points for you this morning to show you what's going on right now. So, Joseph, tell us what you're seeing, what you're hearing.
Hey, Melissa. So, we've been out here pretty much since the very beginning. This crash happened just before 9 p.m. Wednesday night. It is now almost 4 a.m. on Thursday morning, and it is still very much an active scene at DCA, at the airport, but out on the water as well. And for the first time this morning, we are seeing what we believe to be the wreckage of American Airlines Flight 5342. That CRJ 700. That's the type of aircraft, that regional jet. It has been super difficult to see out here for obvious reasons. This crash happened in the darkness of the night, and we're still waiting for sunrise out here. But after multiple times zooming into this specific shot here, we believe this is the plane that went down. And all night long, we've been seeing police helicopter after police helicopter after police helicopter circling this scene with the light shining down. It's happening right now, actually. And that is as these first responders, over 300 of them, we are told, tasked with this whole effort, they're searching and rescuing and recovering the victims of this crash, both the American Airlines flight and the military aircraft. And one of the things that makes it so difficult is that we're still in January. It's really cold. The Potomac River is still thawing out. It was frozen solid in most parts last week. And so we've heard from firefighters that they are battling, they're crushing ice. They are dealing with the cold temperatures, with the wind out on the river. And of course, the Potomac River isn't the cleanest river out there, so they're dealing with that as well. We do not have an official number right now as to the number of casualties, injuries, fatalities. One source telling News 4 that over a dozen bodies have been pulled from this wreckage. But when Mayor Muriel Bowser was asked that question, along with other officials just a couple of hours ago during the first media briefing we had as a result of this crash, they declined to comment. So hopefully we'll get some more clarity this morning. But this is what the Potomac River looks like, ladies. 7 hours after this crash happened, and we're not talking about hours at this point. We heard from the chief of the DC Fire and EMS department. This is going to be a days-long operation. So we can expect to see the Potomac River and DCA looking like this for a while. Brooks, if you don't mind, can you just pan over to the airfield to show you the lights that you're about to see up on your screen here? That's DCA, the airfield, the land, the runways, the taxiways. So there's still a massive police presence and first responder presence there, as well as the divers and the boats out on the Potomac River. We have learned right now that the airport is supposed to reopen at 11 o'clock this morning. I have sources telling me it could be pushed, but right now the plan is to reopen Reagan National Airport at 11 o'clock this morning.
Look, I'm gonna go ahead and say this. You guys been noticing how these airplanes have been almost colliding? I guess colliding on the runway or in the air, right? And they've been getting flat tires. They catch a fire, and they just can't stay afloat no more. It's always an issue with these airplanes. I told someone it's gonna be a matter of time when a commercial plane just crash. And tonight it hit a helicopter, man. And my friend worked for the air traffic control, and I don't know who dropped the ball because everybody is assigned. People that work for air traffic control are assigned to, well, not everybody, but people in the department are assigned to, you know how it goes. Is it clear? If it's not clear, is it clear? Is it not clear? But I wonder what happened tonight. What happened? I wonder if somebody honestly fell asleep at work. They weren't paying attention to the screen, or did they do this? I don't know, man. We'll find out.
At Dangerfield Island, which is just off the GW Parkway, kind of right behind the Potomac Yard area this morning. That's where she is. Jessica, what can you see from where you are, and what's the latest out there?
Well, Jumi, there's not much going on our side of the Potomac right now, but I do want to give you a look out over the water at what we're seeing here. We can see, like Joseph almost said in his live shot, that helicopter that has been continuously circling the scene just ahead of us here. It's been like that for hours since I've been out here, and well before since I got out here about an hour ago. The focus, again, is all in the water right now. And we see at least two different spots where there are lots of police lights, first responder lights, over on each side of what we believe is the scene where those aircraft are right now. We believe we are staring at what is the wreckage, but because it is dark out here, we haven't gotten daylight yet. It's kind of hard to see exactly what we're seeing outside of the lights and the helicopter. There has only been one news conference so far that we learned a lot from. There's expected to be another one in just a few hours here. We learned that right now there are hundreds, upwards of 300 first responders out here working at this crash site. Federal, state, and local resources are out here. My photographer, Joe Casano, actually said that while he was driving in to this area, he saw Maryland State Police escorting a big boat from the Eastern Shore to help with this operation. Search crews say this is a highly complex mission that they're working on here with rough conditions because, like we've been saying, it's so cold, it's so windy. The Potomac is very murky. It's hard because this is such a large scene and debris field from the pictures that are emerging that we see that they're just having a really difficult time trying to search 8 feet deep of water for victims, for wreckage, for evidence, all of the things that they're looking for right now. Search teams are primarily focusing their efforts across the water here, but Mark Seagraves, he was out here shortly after the crash. He was here throughout the night, and he told me before he left that there was a point while he was standing out here on the shoreline of Dangerfield Island, there were rescue boats scanning the water here, looking for whatever they could find in the water. He actually said that officers came over and asked his crew to turn down his lights just so that they could have a better view of the water because the light was reflecting off the water and making it difficult to search the area here. Now, we also learned from that news conference that once this operation, this rescue operation is finished, which Joseph said could take days, could take even longer, the next step would be for the NTSB to come in and work on this investigation to try to figure out what caused this crash, because there's a lot of questions here. What caused it? Was it able to be prevented? As we know, DC and obviously type of airspace around a airport is extremely restricted. So these things aren't supposed to happen. So there's a lot of questions, and hopefully we'll get some answers in that news conference that is expected to start in about 3.5 hours now.
I'm sure we will have a lot more information, especially when the sun comes up and we can get a better vantage point. Jessica Albert, thank you so much for being out there for us and kind of keeping us updated. Again, we have reporters kind of all around the area trying to get different vantage points and different information from where they are this morning.
Yeah, we want to go to Juliana Valencia. I believe she is standing by this morning. Juliana is there, at the airport, one of our closest crews to the airport. Juliana, I believe, is at the terminal we see behind you there. I know the airport right now, no flights taken off, or the airport closed until Joseph was saying at least 11 o'clock. But just talk to us about what you're seeing there at Reagan National.
Yeah, there's no flights until at least 11 a.m. The runway is right behind me. And, we were inside Terminal A where those flights from Southwest come out of around 12:30 for that news conference. And we heard from several officials, including the mayor, the fire chief, even the new Department of Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, who was just sworn in this week. But before I tell you more about the news conference, I do want to show you what's behind me. And this is where that massive response of first responders are staged. And Chief Donnelly says there are about 300 crews working, including boats from various police and fire departments, state police, helicopters, and the Coast Guard. And if we're able to come back out.
People from the U.S. Figure skating championships, they was on that plane. I don't know, was the athletes on the plane, or just people that was going back and the coaches? I don't know, but it was part of that coming back from Kansas.
The Transportation Secretary Duffy talked about how he had spoke with the president and his team in the Situation Room. He says from the DOT and FAA perspective, they're going to offer their full support to those on the ground, to the mayor and to the NTSB, who will eventually take over this investigation. We also had the two senators from Kansas speak during the news conference, Moran and Marshall. They provided their thoughts and prayers, emphasizing that this is official, but also a very personal response for them to what's happened. They talked about how this nonstop flight from Wichita has only been around for a year and what an unspeakable, heartbreaking tragedy this is. There were 19 flights in the area of DCA after this collision. All of those flights, they were diverted to Dulles. Metro extended its hours to help those passengers get to where they needed to go. As you said, Jimmy, there are no flights headed out of DCA until at least 11 this morning. But, we are talking about 67 lives here, daughters and sons and their families dealing with that unbearable sorrow this morning as they're awaiting updates. Back to you.
Juliana Valencia reporting live for us at Reagan National. Juliana, thank you. It's almost 4 o'clock this morning. We have been on the air since this tragedy unfolded just before 9 o'clock last night. Jumi Olabanji, Melissa Millay here. Will be joined by Tony Perkins soon. I don't know, Melissa, I keep thinking how often we all take flights in and out of Reagan National.
Especially regional flights.
Regional flights. And at where those folks were, you're seeing the runway, the wheels are probably down. You're probably picking up your phone to turn it on so you can tell your family, hey, we're about to land. And that's when all of this unfolded, right at the end. I just can't imagine what the families must be going through. We know they're gathering there at the airport. American Airlines kind of has them all together, giving them information, obviously providing comfort care and services as well. But it's just so tough. And, as we get more information now, we wait for daylight, we're going to be hearing more and more about families and people who were on board that plane.
Who was on board? We know right now more than 12 bodies have been recovered at this point. We don't specifically know who anyone is. Of course, they are pending notification. We do know that several members of the U.S. figure skating team were on board the American Airlines flight, and they did issue a statement. U.S. figure skating did. And a lot of people, of course, praying for everybody here. U.S. figure skating saying they can confirm several members of our skating community were sadly aboard American Airlines Flight 5342, which collided with a helicopter yesterday evening in Washington, D.C. As far as specifics, we do not have them, but we are seeing lots of tweets and information from figure skating, folks from the figure skating world.
Yeah, including Ilya Malinin, who is from Fairfax, Virginia, Vienna. He's a student at George Mason, currently a world champion on the USA figure skating team. He posted on his Instagram account overnight. Take a look at this right here. He says, "I hope and pray for everyone who was on that flight is okay. God bless." So we can obviously say he was not on that flight, but you have to imagine it's somebody who came up through USA Figure Skating and that development team, a lot of young people who take an interest in figure skating. He knows probably many of the people, the coaches, some of the skaters themselves who may have been on that flight. And so just like he said, our thoughts and our hearts go out to all of them this morning.
Just terrible.
You know, if you can read an article right now on NBC News, but the U.S. figure skating team, there was a crash 60 years ago with the USA figure skating team, and everyone on board that plane died 60 years ago. And so this must be just another dark and tragic day for USA figure skating as they, try to build their program back up.
It's just awful. And, these regional jets, we were talking about how you take them all the time, you hop on it and you just, go here or there for an hour or two. And I know that this flight from Wichita, they had really been fighting to get this flight path for a couple of years, and it's only been about a year then it's been running. I was listening on the way in here to WTOP, and they were talking with the mayor of Wichita, who said they had just celebrated the first anniversary of this flight path, and they were really happy to have this kind of jump to Washington, and lawmakers and such. So just such a sad situation. Chuck Bell is here with us right now, and Chuck, we're talking about not only the temperature outside, really the temperature in that water right now for these dive teams. What is it?
Yes, 35 degrees.
Right.
Because so you remember just 2 weeks ago we had the tragic accident off the Memorial Bridge.
Sure.
The Potomac River was still frozen up solid in ice, and even when that had happened, that was the anniversary week of the Air Florida crash.
Hopefully it worked. You guys can see that stuff. I'm going to end the call. Hold on one second. I'm going to end the call. And hopefully you guys are okay. All right. Thanks for joining me.